I hate Sonic Colors. I have for years because of the ungodly amounts of cringe it brought to the franchise, because of its mischaracterizations of these icons, its abysmal writing overall, and the overly simplistic design. But then I played it again. After rumors of Colors Ultimate began to circulate before its official announcement, I decided to put Colors back into my Wii, and I replayed a couple stages. And I came to one simple conclusion. This game is good, and I'm angry about how wrong I've been for years. Unfortunately, my forte in analysis essays mainly revolves around story and character writing, and this game has nothing to appreciate or dissect in that regard, because all of my points I said earlier about the story are still 100% applicable in my eyes. But that doesn't stop this game from being so stinking fun! So let's dust off this decade-old game and examine why it's one of Sonic's best 3D adventures, and maybe even convince you to go back and give it a shot after all these years of loathing the game like I did. Let's take a look back and see why I changed my mind about Sonic Colors. As much as I don't want to, let's cover a little bit of this game's story because that is part of the overall package. And as we all know, it sucks. The biggest issue is how underplayed certain elements are, because let's face it, comedy is a subjective thing, and if a kid played this game and found it funny, then Pontac and Graf earned their paycheck as writers because that was the demographic they were going for with Colors. After Unleashed, although I personally disagree with this decision, I can understand Sega's desire to revitalize the Sonic brand by going back to basics with a classic Sonic and Tails plot. But where the narrative gets sloppy is the abundance of scenes with utterly pointless dramatic elements. For example, the Tails getting mind-controlled scene always gets on everyone's nerves, and for good reason, because it easily could have been a boss fight. But even though that doesn't occur, it is still a way for the story to convey Eggman's master plan of mind-controlling the world. Side note, Eggman calls Earth Sonic's world, so maybe the whole human and animal world thing has been in effect a lot longer than we thought. But back on topic. Tails getting mind-controlled could have potentially been an additional motivation for the character. Maybe instead of Sonic throwing Tails into the Cosmic Railway, they could have had him hack Eggman's mech remotely and Sonic just needed to destroy it with the Wisp's energy. It would have been great to see some more Tails action, to make both old and new fans of the series enjoy his presence a lot more as a secondary protagonist. Overall, I must admit, I feel the game does do a more than adequate job in terms of introducing these characters, even if the characterizations, once more, are as bad as they are. So, in Sonic Colors, I think it's a fine story for a children's game, but goes too far in its kiddie demographic to be entertaining for all ages aside from one or two jokes. But we already know all this, so let's go over what really got me into this game for the first time. This game has had its fair share of criticisms over the years, for its oversimplistic design, and frankly, I used to agree with that, and to an extent I still do, but let's go over it more in depth. Firstly, gimmicks like these springs and switches are nothing but pace breakers and aren't as interesting as the platforming. If they wanted to have more slower paced moments, then they should have simply added more platforming sections instead. And the overabundance of stages consisting of doing nothing is pretty prevalent. Let's not kid ourselves, the entirety of Starlight Carnival Act 1 is literally just a straight line with some quick stepping sections. There are some platforming sections with the Cube Wisp, true, but those are so visually uninteresting because of the bland and repetitive design of the inside of these spaceships. And no, these two sections of homing attack chains don't count. Those are even more brain dead. So yes, there's a lot of simple stage design here with blocks being copied and pasted and the only real points of player control being in boring 2D sections. But that being said, for every Starlight Carnival Act 1, there's a Starlight Carnival Act 5, filled with platforming action that is so fun and plentiful that it overshadows the equally simplistic gimmicks of Act 1. Although each world is mainly full of gimmick levels, a common theme among each zone I've noticed is that each one has about 2 really good levels, with large 3D platforming sections with multiple branching pathways that encourage exploration as well as speedrunning. Speaking of 3D sections, this is without a doubt the best Sonic has ever controlled in a boost game. Most importantly, as you can see here, Sonic at a standstill can still turn and go in any direction effortlessly. Even when picking up speed, he controls great. This is really hard to describe, but bear with me with these comparisons. Sonic in other boost games is essentially a tank. His weight feels as if he's wearing cement shoes with no agility whatsoever, leaving the player struggling to do anything other than go in a straight line. Even with the fantastic level design to compensate for the state of Sonic's control, it still leaves a lot to be desired. In Colors, however, no such issue exists. They absolutely nailed the agility Sonic has by making the boost an amazing gameplay mechanic once more, but this time they decided not to give it such an overbearing presence on the player's control. In Generations, Unleashed, and even Forces, the boost is a force of nature that envelops your screen and mind. It's an unstoppable and immovable force. In Colors, it instead only enhances your speed, but not to such a dramatic extent, so the player still gets the enhanced speed and invincibility, but also keeps Sonic's great base control. He moves so naturally, but is still loose enough to punish recklessness. On top of that, his jump weight grants the players a very good sense of control, accompanied with an equally effective double jump that can either save you in a pinch or help you further position your jumps. But speaking of the boost, a common criticism often lobbed at Colors, even by me in the past, is the lack of the boost in the game as a central mechanic. This is definitely a criticism I understand, because after all, it's not anywhere near as easy to obtain as it is in any other boost title. But that being said, with skilled play, you'd be surprised at just how much boost you can really get. Often, through my natural reflexes of playing Generations and Unleashed for so many years, I was hitting the right notes on practically every stage. With skilled play, heck, even as soon as your second run through, you're going to have more than enough boost. The only difference is that in Sonic Colors, you have to choose when to use it. This game, as previously mentioned, is more platforming focused than boost focused, so if you waste it all on these automated segments, then that's on you. And that's not an insult, I even tested it here in Starlight Carnival. Anytime the game is giving you a large scale set piece, do not boost. It is a waste of wisp energy, and often the exact reason people complain about the lack of boost. In automated segments like this, the boost does not speed you up, so under no circumstance do you want to waste it on moments like this. Besides, and this point isn't really a counter-argument, but I just personally feel that base Sonic is fast enough on his own to make the levels fun even without the boost. Trust me, give these levels a second run through and you'll be boosting in no time. But yes, now it is finally time to talk about the dreaded wisps. I like wisps. To reiterate a point I made in my Team Sonic Racing video, I am more than happy to have the wisp fill a similar role as the Chow. If they want to help Sonic and most importantly don't cause a fundamental conflict in the overall gameplay, then by all means, use them. And this game shows exactly how to do so. The wisps are so great here because they are natural extensions of Sonic's speedy agility. Laser allows for some awesome shortcuts, Drill does wonders for encouraging discovery, and Frenzy is, well, my favorite. I don't know, I just like them. These are especially hard to go over from a game design perspective because I don't really know how to explain it in full honesty. In this game, the wisps just simply work for me, and I've always enjoyed their presence here. But I've been mentioning Sonic's agility quite often in this video, and let's not mince words, personally, I believe Sonic Colors has the best animation out of all of the boost titles. Watching over Sonic Unleashed and Generations cutscenes, I've noticed the extreme stiffness of these characters. Every Sonic fan across the globe has seen the New Frame Plus video about Sonic animation, and as someone who wants to be an animator, I thought similar views over the Sonic animation throughout the games for a long time, and I'm glad he finally got the news more widespread. But something I think he failed to mention was that he did not emphasize Color's cutscene animation. The amount of poses the characters strike and facial expressions they convey are off the charts for the Sonic series, in terms of the boost games of course. Unleashed definitely moved a lot more, but the motion capture held it back, and Generations overall just had a severe lack of energy in its cutscene animation. Meanwhile, Colors cutscenes have countless examples of dynamic movement and at least attempts at facial expression beyond just using the freaking eyelids like Forces would tend to do. With the heavy push towards children for this game, I think they gave their all with the animation, and they gave their animation team a lot more time to make this game visually appealing, and it really shows in the cinematics. And this is harder to show consistently, but the amount of poses and flow and the succulent squash and stretch seen in Sonic's trick animation and overall gameplay animation is a sight to behold. Plus, the visual effects on Sonic's stomp and slide give his moves a lot more presence in gameplay. While on the topic of aesthetic, this game is freaking gorgeous and the music is consistently top-notch. The levels are filled with vibrant colors, and even in the vacuum of space, it follows color theory to a T for the most visually appealing color palettes per world. And the way each act of its world has its own remix on top of a separate remix for when boosting, it is simply greatness. I love Sonic Colors. I love the fantastic gameplay with plentiful amounts of both fun 3D and 2D platforming, the inspired levels and the wisps, and the out-of-this-world art direction that, even on limited hardware, allowed this game to be one of the best-looking Sonic games ever. I regret first playing Sonic Colors with the mindset I had back in the day. I thought it would be only the criticisms I had heard for years, and that's all I really allowed myself to see. But even now, after all my experience with Sonic Generations and Sonic Unleashed, and most importantly, a more fair critical eye, Sonic Colors has earned its place in my heart as one of Sonic's best 3D adventures, and without a doubt an amazing place to get into this series gameplay-wise. Even if you despise the game, I think it's worth one more playthrough. Even just of Tropical Resort Act 1 might be enough to convince you, like it did for me. Having an open mind can lead to a whole new world of fun you'd closed yourself off from. After all, that open mind is exactly why I changed my mind about Sonic Colors.